How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nun Vav, Daf 56 of Masechta Kiddushin. Friends. Yo friends, what's up? Well, today we're going to wrap up our exciting sugya of Meiser Sheni. And then we begin the exciting sugya of Orla, Kilea, Kerem, and things that are Asur Bahanoah. Here we go. We're going to start in Daf Nun with Beis all the way at the bottom, 2 lines from the bottom. Toner Rabbanan Dvar. We start in Lochim Behemo, the most Meiser Sheni. So you have a Nusiyada field, and you separated Trumas, Truma Meiser Rishon. Now you separate Meiser Sheni. Then now you have to bring that stuff to Yerushalayim and eat it there. Alternatively, you could transfer the value onto money. So now you have money that you have to bring to Yerushalayim. Now, as Rashi points out, in the bottom Rashi of the page, it says V'tzarta kesef biyodech. It says what you have to do is you have to take the money and bring it to Yerushalayim, but you didn't do that. It doesn't say. It says Ein lokrim behem of most meiser sheni, meaning what you need to do is you have to take the money and bring it to Yerushalayim. What you should not do is buy an animal. But don't take that money and now spend it on an animal and bring the animal to Yerushalayim and then eat the animal there. Don't do that. It says V'tzarta kesef biyodech. Take the money. Rashi then points out shematachish b'torech haderech. The animal can get weak on the way. Take the money, bring the money to Yerushalayim, and then spend the money in Yerushalayim on food over there. V'im lokach, and says the Gemara, v'im lokach, and if he did buy an animal, so if it's b'shogeg, yachzeru domim limkomom. So if it was an accident, he didn't realize that this was Meiser Sheni money, so then it was a mekarto, so it was a mistaken transaction, so he gets his money back, they undo it. B'mezid, but if he intentionally did it, tal v'seochel b'makom, so then you bring it to Yerushalayim, eat it there, right? So if he intentionally bought an animal, we're going to go into more detail in a second. So b'mezid, if he did it intentionally, tal v'seochel b'makom, so then, if he intentionally brought an animal, so then, bring the animal to Yerushalayim and eat the animal in Yerushalayim. Now, Rabbi Yehuda explains, when we say that if he purchased the animal on purpose, so then, bring it to Yerushalayim. If he initially bought the animal to be a shlamim, right? So, Meiser Sheni money, you bring to Yerushalayim and you use it to buy food in Yerushalayim. Now, if you buy an animal in Yerushalayim with money of Meiser Sheni, you purchase it to be a korban shlamim, and a korban shlamim, part of it goes on the mizbech, part of it goes to the kohanim, the rest of it goes to the owner, to the person who offered it, who brought it, who sponsored it, whose animal it is. So if that was his intention, right? So again, the money of Meiser Sheni you're supposed to bring to Yerushalayim and spend it in Yerushalayim. However, if you bought an animal outside of Yerushalayim, so if it was a mistake, so then the transaction can be undone. If it was on purpose, and he says, look, I'm buying the animal, I'm not going to buy it in Yerushalayim, I'm going to buy it now, and I'll bring it to Yerushalayim. Okay, so then bring it to Yerushalayim. But if his intention was to be a shtikol nudnik, was to say, I don't actually care that this money is Meiser Sheni money, couldn't care less, I'm hungry, and he's going to the sheep dealer to buy a sheep so that he can kill it right then and there and eat it, well then, so bein shogeg, whether it was by accident, which obviously this isn't by accident, meaning the by accident is going on 5 lines earlier, meaning we said that if he didn't realize that it was money and he bought an animal, so then we said that the money goes back, the transaction is undone, but also bein mezid, whether it's exactly what we just described a second ago, which is that he says, to heck with this, I really don't care, I'm hungry. So then Yachzu Dam Komam, in both cases, whether he purchased the animal with Meiser Sheni money by accident, or whether he did it intentionally because he says, I don't really care, I'm hungry. In both cases, the transaction is undone and the money is returned to the buyer. And that is, so again, if it was by accident, it's because it's a mekartos, it was a mistaken transaction, so it's undone. And if it was on purpose, he gets his money back. You might be thinking, why are we punishing the seller? So the Gemara is going to get to that a little bit later. Okay, but anyways, in both cases, the money would be returned, the transaction undone. Fine. But one second. Why is Rabbi Yehuda saying that if he makes a purchase with Mos Meiser Sheni intentionally, it's undone? But we learned in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'mezid Kiddush, that if a fellow is mekadesh a fellow intentionally with money of Meiser Sheni, so according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's Kiddushin. It's all good. We don't say that it goes back. We don't say that it's batul. And yet over here, we're saying that if you use money of Meiser Sheni and intentionally purchase an animal because you're hungry, the transaction is no good. So, Omar, let me just check out something. Okay, fine. So, okay, fine. Kivaldik. So, Omar Belazar says, Rabbi Belazar, Isha Yodas, Shein Mos Meiser Sheni Mischadlin Al Yoda, Ve'ola V'ochata B'Yerushalayim. Well, the difference is that when it comes to our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda says that if a fellow takes money of Meiser Sheni and he's mekadesh a fellow intentionally with it, so we say it's good Kiddushin, right? Rabbi Yehuda says if you take Mos Meiser Sheni and intentionally mekadesh a fellow, so then it's good Kiddushin. Why? Says Rabbi Elazar, because the fella knows that the money is Meiser Sheni, so she's going to bring it to Yerushalayim and she's going to eat it over there. But in this case, the seller of the animal knew that it was Mos Meiser Sheni, and he knew that the buyer was just buying it because he says, to heck with it, I don't care, I'm hungry. And says Rashi, he's violates Lifnei Lo Site Michshol, and therefore that is why the transaction is undone. But Maskef for Rabbi Yirmiyah asks the Kashvarei, Behema Tmeya. What if a fellow uses Mos Meiser Sheni to buy an impure animal? The people are back. Avodim, or to buy an Eved, Vikarkos, or to buy property. Dadim Yudea She'ein Mos Meiser Sheni Mischadlin Alein. So when it comes to, if you use Mos Meiser Sheni to buy Behemoth Mea, Avodim, Karkos, that even though a person knows that the Ein Mos Meiser Sheni Mischadlin Alein, that the money of Meiser Sheni is going to remain Mos Meiser Sheni, right? It's not going to be transferred onto the Eved. V'tanan ein lokrim behemet mea avodim v'kakos b'mos Meiser Sheni afil b'Yerushalayim v'im lokach ye'ochel kenegdon, that you cannot use money of Meiser Sheni to buy a behemet mea or avodim or kakos, even in Yerushalayim. And if you did, so then you have to set aside other money, right? So then the buyer is going to have to set aside other money to then spend on Meiser Sheni. So meaning, so we said in our Mishnah, when it comes to Kiddushin, if the fellow intentionally is Mekadesh the fellow with Kesef Kiddushin, okay, Mekadesh the fellow with Mos Meiser Sheni, we said it's no problem, she knows what to do with it, she'll bring it to Yerushalayim, no problem. And yet, when it comes to, Behemoth Mea, Karkos, Avodim, we said we're assuming that the buyer knows, the seller knows that it's Mos Meiser Sheni, and he's going to have to deal with it accordingly. And then yet we don't say it's all good, like we said by the Kiddushin. We don't say it's all good. Rather, we say that the buyer needs to now set aside the same amount of money to then go. He has to transfer, right? So meaning the money that he spent on the Avodim, Karkos, Behemoth Mea remains Meiser Sheni money. It's not mischal on what he bought. So it remains Meiser Sheni in the hand of the seller of the animals, or the animals, the kakos, whatever. And yet over here what we say, what the buyer needs to do, the person whose Meiser Sheni it was, needs to say, you know what, I need to now separate the equivalent of what I spent. I have to transfer the Kedusha of the Meiser Sheni from the money that now the seller has. I have to transfer that money onto my own money that I'm setting aside now. And now I have to use that money to buy food in Yerushalayim. How come that's what we say by Behemoth Mea, Karkos, and Avodim, and yet it's a completely different story when it comes to Kiddushin? We say no problem, she'll just bring it to Yerushalayim. The fellow doesn't need to do anything. So rather, if I understand correctly, the point is that by the Avodim, the Karkos, the Behemoth Mea, we do not assume that the seller of these things knows that this is Mos Meiser Sheni, is going to treat it accordingly. Therefore, the buyer needs to now, set aside other money and transfer the Kedusha, etc. But by the Kiddushin, we're talking about an Isha Chaver. We're talking about a learned fella who knows that this is Meiser Sheni money and that she's going to have to bring it to Yerushalayim. And therefore, we can assume that she's going to treat it accordingly, and that is why it's okay. But otherwise, we said, yes, the buyer who spent the Meiser Sheni money inappropriately would have to set aside other money to spend instead. Amar, we said, Im lokach yorchal kenegdon ve'amai yachzu dam limkomon ki osum. But for the Gemara, one second, we just said that if a fellow buys behemoth tmei, kakos, avodim, with most Meiser Sheni, so we say he has to now set aside other money to spend. But we had said earlier by the animal, by behemoth tmei, that the money just goes back to him. The sale reverts. Why don't we just say that the sale reverts? How come over here we say that he has to set aside other money? So Amr Shmuel says, Shmuel, Kishabaruch. Well, the seller ran away. So the seller ran away with the money, so he couldn't get it. He couldn't get the money back. So therefore, he has to set aside other money. Okay, but getting back to what we had said earlier. So because the seller ran away, that's why he can keep the money, and because he ran away with it. And then the buyer needs to set aside other money to use as Meiser Sheni money. But if the seller was still there, we would tell him that the sale reverts. The question is, why do we have to get the seller involved? Why are you punishing the seller? Punish the buyer to say, that he should have to outlay the money to spend it. Why does the seller have to lose the sale? Find the buyer. So lav achbar ganif elachor ganif. So we have seen this before. Says the Gemara, it's not the mouse that steals, it's the hole. The mouse hole that's responsible for the theft. Because if not for the mouse hole, right, if the mouse didn't know that he had a hole to run into, so then he wouldn't have stolen. Here, right? It's not the buyer that's stealing; it's the enabler. It's the seller who's enabling him. Not stealing. It's not the buyer who's doing the problem with the Meiser Sheni. It's the seller that's enabling him to inappropriately spend his Meiser Sheni money. V'i lo yachbar chora my covet. But then the Gemara pushes back and says, but still, if there wasn't an evil mouse, so then the hole would just basically sit there empty, and it wouldn't be an accomplice. It's really ultimately the responsibility is on the mouse. So here again, ultimately the responsibility should be on the buyer, not the seller. Kolecha, mistava kolecha the ikar isur asum konsinan, to which the Gemara says yes, but at the end of the day, wherever the isur is right now, that is where we apply the fine. And if right now it is the seller who has the money of the Meiser, this Meiser Sheni money that was spent inappropriately, well then it's the seller who we're going to fine to have to return it. Okay. So now we get up to another Mishnah. Hamakadosh ba'orla. So if a fellow is Makadosh with orla, who can tell me what orla is? Orla is a fruit the first 3 years of its life. You can't get any benefit from it. And all the things that we're going to list in this Mishnah are things that are also ba'ano, things that are forbidden to get benefit from. So Makadosh ba'orla, fellows Makadosh with orla, b'kilei akarim, with a climb of a vineyard. If you mix a vineyard with other species, b'shar niskol, if you have a ox that kills somebody, so you have to kill the ox, and the ox is then also ba'ano. Uve'egla arufa, or if you find a dead body in between two cities, you don't know who killed the fellow, so then they take a calf and they kill it. It's also ba'ano. B'tzipori mitzora, with the birds at the end of, where you have a leper. At the end of being a leper, he offers, so the kohen comes out to him and they take 2 birds. So these birds are also ba'ano. U'v'sar nozir, and the hair of a Nazirite after it is shorn. U'feter chomer, right? Or the if you have a firstborn donkey, so the pasuk says, "Ufeter chomer tifta b'sevim lo sifta v'rafto," that the firstborn donkey you have to redeem, swap for a sheep, and if not, you have to kill it. So that peter chomer, basar b'chala, if you cook meat and milk, it's also ba'ano. V'chulin shenishchetu ba'azar, if you take barbecue meat and you slaughter it in the azar. The azar is not for barbecue meat. The azar is for korbanos. If you take your sheep that you're hungry and you want to eat a sheep, so you take it and you kill it in the azar, no good. It's also ba'ano. Eina mekudeshes. Any of these things, if you're mekadesh with these things that are also ba'ano, it's nish good kiddushin. Mochron, however, and here's the interesting thing: if you sell them, v'kidesh b'dmei mekudeshes. Interesting. So if you take, for example, kilei akarim, kilei akarim is also ba'ano. However, if you sell the kilei akarim, so you might think that if I take this kilei akarim, which is also ba'ano, and I sell it and get money for it, I would think that the kedusha, the iser hano of the kilei akarim is transferred onto the money, and the money is also ba'ano. No, you'd be wrong, Rather, the Kilei HaKerem remains Kilei HaKerem, and it's also ba'ano, and the person who bought it now has an Isra Ano in his hands. The money that you have received for it, the money that you now have, is not also ba'ano. And if you Mekadesh a fellow with it, Mikudeshes. Now says the Gemara, Ba'orla minayin, how do I know that Orla is also ba'ano? The Tanya. So it says that by Orla you can't eat it. All I know is that I can't eat the Orla. How do I know that I can't get any kind of benefit from it? How do I know that I can't get any benefit from it? And I can't dye with this Orla, with the peels and things to make it into a dye. If I have like olives, I can't make olive oil and light use it for a flame. How do I know I can't get any benefit from oil? It says va'araltam or loso is period. It's the double lashon to teach that you can't get any benefit from it at all. But kilei hakerim minolan. How do I know that by kilei hakerim I can't get any benefit from it? Amar Chizkiah says Chizkiah Amar Kra pentikdash pentukad eish. Right? It says by kilei hakerim, don't do it. Don't plant a vineyard with other things. What does it say? Don't have different species planted in your vineyard. And if you do, pentikdash, it'll be tikdash. Mazet tikdash pentukad eish. You'll have to burn it. You can't get any benefit from it. You have to burn it. Rav Ashi Amar says Rav Ashi pentie kodesh. It'll be like kodshim. It'll be like kodshim. You can't get any benefit from kodesh. For maktish, something is a hektish. You can't get benefit from it. So here also you won't be able to get any benefit from the kilayim at all. Ima kodesh tofes is dom of yotze l'chulim. But the Gemara asks, 1 second. Hektish, however, has an important characteristic. If I makdish a pie of pizza, can you be makdish a pie of pizza? I don't know, maybe let's do something else. A lawnmower. If I makdish my lawnmower, so my lawnmower is now a hektish, it belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, but I could transfer the kedusha of the lawnmower onto money. And now the money is hektish, and I give that to the temple treasury. However, we had said in our Mishnah that when it comes to these things, right, when it comes to kilei hakerim, if I sell it, the kilei hakerim remains kilei hakerim, and the money does not take on the Isra Ano. So therefore, by comparing it to hektish, then our Mishnah would be problematic, because our Mishnah says that the money, right, that it is that the kilei hakerim is not transferred onto money, and yet by hektish it would be transferred onto money. So af kilei hakerim tov is dam v'yotze l'chulim selam achvadi k'dechizkiah. So based on that kasha, right, meaning I would say then that the same would apply to kilei hakerim, that the money would be also bano, but we said that that's not the case. So therefore, the machvati k'dechizkiah makes more sense like Chizkiah's drasha, which is that pentikdash, which is tukadesh, you're gonna have to burn it. You can't get any benefit from it. How do I know that if you stone a shore, right? If an ox kills a fellow, so then we stone the ox, stone it to death, and we say that you can't get any benefit from it. How do I know? The Tanya, because we have a brayso. The pasuk says "Soku yisakal ashor v'lo yochaz b'saro." That's what the pasuk says. That you have to stone the ox and you can't eat it. Duh. Obviously you can't eat it. Chevre, let me ask you a kasha. If you want to eat a cow, an ox, how do you eat an ox? You slaughter it. Shchita. You don't stone it to death. You slaughter it. It's a whole process. It's a whole thing. It's called shchita. You have to learn how to do it. You don't just stone it to death. And guess what? If an animal is killed and it wasn't shchited, it's what's called nevela. You can't eat nevela. So if you stone an ox, obviously you can't eat it. It wasn't slaughtered. It was stoned. So why do I need a pasuk to teach me that you can't eat it? Obviously you can't eat it. It's nevela. So again, right? So right, once it says that you stone the ox and you odesh neveli, don't I know that memela it's nevela? Nevela asur ba'achila, and you can't eat nevela. So why does it say you can't eat it? Because Magilacha teaches Shem Shachato Lacha Shenigmar Dino, that once a ox has been condemned to being stoned for killing a person, so then once it's been condemned to be killed, So then, even if you slaughter it, you might think, okay, fine, but now I slaughtered it, maybe I can eat it. Also, ba'achila, you cannot eat it. No, you can't. Ba'no, I know, okay, fine, so I can't eat it. How do I know I can't get benefit from it? Tamloma uvala shor noki. And it says that the owner of the ox is cleaned out. My mashma, how does this teach that you can't get any anah from it? Shimon ben Zoma Omer says, Shimon ben Zoma ka'adam shomer lechaver. It's like a fellow who says to his other fellow, Yotza ploni noki min chosav. This fellow got cleaned out of all his possessions. Vein lo boyim anah shel klum, and he can't get any benefit from them all. He's been wiped clean. So therefore, we see, so bala shor noki means that you can't get any benefit from it, so therefore a shor niskal is also ba'ano. Mimai dahai lo yochel es bisaro leicha deshachit lacha shenigmar dino hu da'asos. Now, affect the Gemara pushes back. The Gemara questions it and says, one second, we said, so v'lo yochel es bisaro means that even if you slaughter the animal once it was condemned to be stoned, even if you slaughter it, you still cannot eat it. The Gemara pushes back and says, how do I know that that's what it means? Dilma, maybe what it means is eicha deshachit lacha shenigmar dino shari. Maybe take, if a ox was condemned to be stoned and then you slaughter it, maybe, you know what? Maybe I can eat it. V'hai lo ye'achol. And then what do we learn out from lo ye'achol? That it can't be eaten then? If it says I can't eat it, then what do we learn out from it? Heicha desakli misakol hu da'asa. And it is taka coming to say that if you stone the ox, you cannot eat it. But one second, don't I already know that I can't eat it because it's nevela? And what it's teaching is like Rabbi Bo who teaches Amar Belazar, the name of Rabbi Belazar, the Amar Babo, Amar Belazar, Kol Mokum Shnemar, Lo Yochal, Lo Sochav, Lo Sochlu. And in our case, Lo Yochel, Echad Isser Achila, Ve'echad Isser Hano'ah. That when it says, so in our case it says by the Shor Niskal, it says lo ye'achel. Obviously it's not coming to teach me that I can't eat it. Obviously I can't eat it. It's stoned. But what it's coming to teach is that whenever it says lo yochal, lo sochlu, lo sochlu, or in our case lo ye'achel, that means not only can you not eat it, but you don't get hanoah from it. So maybe that is what we're learning out from lo ye'achel. So it's not coming to teach that even if you slaughtered it after it was condemned to death, maybe that's tak okay. You slaughtered it, you can eat it. Maybe what lo ye'achel is teaching is that it's also ba'anoah. So okay, unless the pasuk makes a specific allowance to get benefit, like it does by nevela, right? It says, what was it, konevela lo sochela or something, right? But then it says ach lager tashlichuno, so something, what ach lager sheb'sharecha titnenu va'achalo, or something like that, right? So it makes a special exception that by nevela, even though you can't eat it, you can get benefit from it. It's not asur b'ano. You can give it to a neighbor who's not Jewish. So, but by default, if it says lo yochel, lo sochel, lo sochlu, or in our case lo yochel, it means not only that it's asur b'achila, but also that it's asur b'ano. So that's the Gemara's kasha. Why are we assuming that lo yochel is teaching me that even if you slaughter it after it's condemned to death, you still can't eat it? Maybe if you slaughter it after it's condemned to death, you can eat it because you slaughtered it. Maybe. So what do I learn out from lo yochel? Obviously, it's talking about when it's stoned, because when it's stoned, it's obviously I can't eat it. And if we're saying that if you slaughter it, you can eat it, so what do I learn from lo yochel? It means that it's asur ba'anoah. So, and for the Gemara, no. It cannot be, we cannot be learning out from lo yochel that it's asur ba'anoah. Because hani mile, when Rab Abo and Rab Elazar says, that when it says lo yochel, lo sochel, lo sochlu, that it's not just asur b'achila, but it's asur ba'anoah, that is when heicha denafkulon isser achila milo yochal, right? In order to say that lo yochal is teaching that you not only can't you eat it, but you also can't get benefit from it, that's when you're learning from lo yochal that you can't eat it. So when it says don't eat it, and when it says lo yochal, not only does it mean don't eat it, but also don't get benefit from it. In our case, I already know that I can't eat it because it's nevela, because you're stoning it. So I know already that I can't eat it because of it's being stoned. Now, and if the only thing that we need to learn out from lo yochel is just don't get benefit from it, so nichtov kra lo yehane. Let it say don't get benefit. Why say lo yochel if I already? Why? Meaning what the Gemara was trying to argue was that, well, I already know I can't eat it because it's being stoned, but maybe what lo yochel is teaching is lo yehane. It says the Gemara, if all it's teaching is don't get benefit, then it should just be clear. Don't get benefit. Why teach me in an enigmatic thing, which is don't eat it, but really we don't mean don't eat it because I already know you can't eat it because it's being stoned. What it means is don't get benefit from it. If it means don't get benefit from it, say don't get benefit from it. Inami, lo ya'achel, or even, you know what, even if it does say lo ya'achel, as bisaro lamali, but still, why do I need as bisaro then? Like something is funny with this lo ya'achel as bisaro. But either it should just say lo yahane, or even if it wanted to say lo ya'achel, to say that don't just teach me that, right? It's to say that it's also bano. But still, what's as bisaro? So afal gav tishachte kein basar aser. What it's coming to teach is, like we had said earlier, that from lo ya'achel it means that even if you slaughter it after it was condemned to death, you cannot. Even if you slaughtered after it's condemned to death and you did shchita, still you cannot eat it because lo ye ochel, right? And it's not to teach me that it's aser ba'ano. Maskif lo Maizucho. Maizucho says, but ve'ema hanimile echa de bodek tzur v'shachat bo de mechze kiskila. Okay, Maizucho wants to suggest, but still, maybe when it says lo ye ochel, what it's saying is that if I slaughter the ox after it's condemned to death, but not with a knife, if I slaughter with a stone, I sharpen a stone and slaughter with a stone, in that case I can't eat it because it's similar to stoning. It's like I'm stoning it. But if I slaughter with a knife, maybe it would be okay. Which the Gemara says, come on, midi sakin b'raisiksiv, doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that you have to slaughter with a knife. It says you have to slaughter an animal. And after all, we have a brayse that says you could slaughter with anything. Bein b'tzur, you could slaughter with a rock if it's sharp enough. Bein b'tzchuchis, or with glass. Bein b'krumis shalkana, or with some kind of a very sharp reed. It doesn't have to be a knife. It just has to be super sharp. I mean, it has to, have the same function as a knife. It has to be super sharp and be able to get the job done in the same way. But it could be anything. Okay, so what we're saying is, if you slaughter the animal after it's condemned to death, you cannot eat it. But now, after we've been exposed to Rabbi Bo and Rabbi Lazar's theory, right, halacha, which is that whenever it says lo yochel, lo sochel, lo sochlu, it means not just isra achilav and isra ano. So we could apply the same thing over here. Okay, so when it says lo yochel, it means that it can't be even if you slaughter it. But we also know that whenever it says lo yochel, it also means that you can't get hana either. So then, hi Baal Shonaki l'may also. So then, what do we need Baal Shonaki from? We had said initially that Baal Shonaki means that you can't get any benefit from it because it's like we said that the guy got cleaned out of all of his possessions. He doesn't have any benefit at all from it. But we already said, but technically, could learn out from Lo Ya'achel, could teach us both. So then, why do I need Baal Shonaki? So Lanos Oro. What it's saying is that he also can't get benefit from the hide either. Because Hakadaiti Chamina Lo Ya'achel is Bisaro Ksiv, Bisaro also V'oro Mutter. I may have thought to say that when it says lo yachos b'saro, it means don't eat its meat, but the hide is another story. The hide is permitted. Therefore, it says Zavala Shonaki that you can't get. He's cleaned out of everything, any benefit from it. He can't get any benefit from not from the meat, not from the hide. But what about according to these? What about according to the opinion that Bala Shonaki is? We're learning something from it. We're learning that. Specifically when, right, there's a concept of kofer, there's a concept of the mevladus. The kofer is that if it was a shor muad, right, we're going to learn about in Bava Kama, if it was an ox that was already warned 3 times and then it killed a fellow, so in addition to the ox having to be killed, the owner of the ox needs to pay, it's a shayla, his own value, the value of the person who was killed, but he has to pay redemption, he has to pay for the fact that somebody was killed, he has to pay money. But if it was a shor tam, bala shor naki, he doesn't have to pay this at all. Not even half, not nothing. And also there's something called Dmei Vlados, right? That if a fellow kills somebody else, so then if a fellow kills a fella and she was pregnant, and you lost the children, so then you have to pay for the value of the children, the fetuses as well, the children. That would not apply to a short tam. Once I get to or maybe. No, or maybe even if it's a short muad, I think. But it's saying that there's no. But the Dmei Vladus is only by people; it's not by oxen. So Anoris Oro Minalu. So then, how do you know if from Baal Shonaki you're learning out Chatzi Kofer Dmei Vlados that you don't have to pay that? So then, how do you know that you can't get benefit from the hides? So Me Es Bisar, it says V'leichol Es Bisar. We learned out that Es is coming to include Es Atofel Ibsaro, that which is also Tofel to the Basar, which is the hide. V'idach, and according to the first opinion that learns out that you can't get benefit from the hide from a Vala Shanoki, so S, Lo Darish, he does not learn out anything from the S. Kidatanya, as we learn in the Brisa, we've seen this Brisa in Psochim, that Shimon HaAmsuni, V'amil Nechemia HaAmsuni, Haidorish Kol Esen Shabbatorah, he would dash in all of the S's in the Torah. Kim Chagil Le Es Hashem Elokecha Tira, perish. But then he got to the pasuk of Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. That's in Sefer Devarim. And it says S. What's it coming to include? Are you coming to include another God? He says, wait, 1 second. We're in trouble here. Amlo Tamidov, so he stopped. Amlo Tamidov, Rebbe Kol Esen Shedarashta Mate Alem. So then they say, well, you've just your mamash got up to the Sefer Devarim. All the while you've been darshaning all the S's and saying, we learn out this, we learn out that from this S, that S. What about all the work that you've invested? What about the sunken cost? Amar Loim says to him, I don't care. Kshem shekibalti socher ala drisha, kach kibalti ala prisha. Just like I received reward for all the limud HaTorah that I did up until now in darshaning all the S's. I gotta call a spade is a spade. I can't, I got it to Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. He says this project has been cancelled. Just like I received reward for all the investment until now, I also receive a reward for saying I'm canceled. The project is cancelled. Hatshabora Bakiva v'limed Es Hashem Elokecha Tira l'Rabbos Tamidei Chacham. Till Rabbi Akiva came and says, no, you know what? You're learning from Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. Obviously, it's not coming to include other gods because there are no other gods. But l'Rabbos Tamidei Chacham is coming to include also a Mora of Tamidei Chacham. And therefore, the first opinion who learns out from Baal Shornaki that you can't get benefit from the hides, so he does not learn out Essen, just like Shimon Amsuni, Amsuni, who had said that ultimately we can't learn out anything from Esses. Rabbi Akiva then kind of arguably fixed that, but based on Shimon Amsuni's opinion, which was that you can't learn out from the Esses, he was saying that you can't learn out from the Esses, and therefore he learns out that you can't get benefit from the hides from Baal Shornaki, but not from the S of S Besara, S Atafel Besara. Friends, that was after involved in Masechta Kiddushin. We finished learning about Meiser Sheni. We started learning about things that are Asur Ba'ana. Tomorrow we're going to continue learning about things that are Asur Ba'ana. I don't know, maybe we'll get to the next Mishnah tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure yet where we'll stop. But tomorrow we're going to finish the second parak. And we're moving right along here. We're almost 3/4 of the way through Masechta Kiddushin. So, peace out.